Hi, good afternoon. This is January 11th. It's Monday, late in the afternoon. I'm going to just throw for an hour or two now before I go home for the night. That's the way I usually work when I'm doing something that needs to stiffen up a little bit before I can do the attaching. And this time I'm going to throw some martini glasses. I've actually got my Brent wheel here, which makes a little bit of a noise, but not much. You've heard me talk about it before. This is a wheel. If you get a Brent wheel, it's going to last you a lifetime. All right. Yeah, I spent the morning trimming all of my little sake bottles that I made the other day. They're like little pitchers, actually. They're not so much bottles as pitchers because I decided to put handles on them. I'll show you those when they come out of the kiln. So I got all my clay in tiny little pieces weighed out. These are 1/3 of a pound and all that. So, and then I've got some bigger pieces, and this is B-Mix from Laguna. These are bigger pieces. I think there might be too much there because that's actually just over half a pound. And this is going to be the little martini glass, and this will be the stem. So we'll see how big the stem gets. It's probably too much clay here, actually. So I throw them in two parts and then join them together as one part gets stiff. You need the stem to be stiffened up a little bit. Alright, so centering, as always, get yourself pulled right up against the wheel and then put your arms down on your thighs so you can be steady. And this is a tiny piece of clay, so if you just put a bit of pressure on, it will actually center fairly quickly. But still move it around. It's always good when you throw clay just to move it up and down a couple of times just to get a feel for it, to see how you think it's going to throw, because some clay, if it's a bit soft, you know you're going to have trouble if you're going to throw a bowl shape. Anyway, for a martini glass you need a stem, so all I do is I just make sure I've got a centimetre at least of clay on the wheel head staying there, and then I make the stem just by doing that, squishing my hands together. Drip some water down again. Now the nice thing about these is you can trim them a lot and really put some decorative stem work on them. But I do that in the trimming section, but you could actually use a little bit of delicate work on these stems while they're in this position. Now that's a big sort of base for these. I'll be trimming a lot of that, so I thought this was a big piece of clay. And because when you're drinking a glass, you don't want it to be so heavy. You also don't want it to fall over. But what I could do is push some of that from the bottom and make a taller stem. And then of course if you've got a needle, you can always take some of this off. There you go. Yeah, you want to make sure that the stem isn't so bulky that your glass seems to be oversized. Now I've got to think about this. It could go a little higher actually. Now the top of it, you want to make sure you're not going to trap air when you put the bowl on top. So I usually round it off and make it almost flat, but the center point I just have a tiny bit higher to make sure I'm not going to trap any air in that. Make a little groove. There's a lot of trimming in martini glasses and wine glasses as well. There you go. Take that one off. I'll do two of each in this section of the video, so it will be, each part of my video is going to be very short. So I'll do two stems and then two bowls so you can get the hang of it. There's that piece of clay. I'm going to rip a piece off because I know I got too much. Yeah, we still don't have any snow. We've had a few snowstorms, but they just melt right away. So it's very mild, although it is only around freezing today for the high temperature. There you go, so I've got that. And then I just do that, just to start it off. A couple of times. You got to move your hands fairly fast because it will dry out quickly. And then that's much better as the base. Now you can change designs, of course. The wider that bottom, of course, the more stable it will be. So. Alright. So it's very easy to make this part of it. You're not really throwing, you're just kind of centering and pushing the shape up. So then round it just a bit. Make sure you don't get a hollow area in that center because you do not want to trap an air bubble in there. So it's always push it up till you get a little point where you don't see a little hole. Alright, now of course if you wanted to, like I said, I trim a lot into these, but I could decide to just groove them a little bit. Let's get some water on there, it's kind of drying on my hands. You don't want to go too far in, but you can do that. Go down. Go down. You could make candlesticks this way as well. Now you can use different tools to do this, because this is just the edge of my throwing rib. Then I'll put an extra groove on the bottom there, so you can play. I mean, it's just totally open-ended. I mean, you can do a whole bunch of things. But if I was making a candlestick on top there, I could even just do that right now with this one. Because you need a hole in there that will hold a candle, basically. Alright, so that's that one. I showed you how I pulled wire right through on the last one, so let's do the rotation. You can do it this way too. Both ways work. Clay is one of those things where everybody ends up with different ways of doing certain things. Some things you really do have to be kind of a craftsman and just follow the rules, but other things you can really bend and make things up. Alright, so remember whenever you do this, just to leave it a little bit of clay on the wheel head for the next piece of pottery. So this was the one that was only 1/3 of a pound of clay. Round off the bottom. Bang it down. Move it around a little bit. Center it. Put a little dingy little hole in it, not much, because it's such a small piece of clay. You want to leave a thick area in the center, because you're going to have to apply some pressure there over the stem. Alright, now this is important. Put your fingers on the outside inwards before you do the pull and lift up. Same again, push your fingers in, not too far yet, and then do a pull. You're basically making like a little rice ball. Martini glasses can be shallow or a bit taller. I prefer the taller ones. Now I'm going to dribble right on the edge. So it goes inside and outside. I don't have to do it inside then outside, right on the edge. It'll go inside out. And then this time, I push in a long way, so it's barely got any clay left. So it's the same width as the stem that I just threw. And then you do the pull-up, so it had to be quite wet. So you will know you've gone too far when it starts wobbling. And then I get the water out. Okay, so now I'm pushing the tool in a long way again. So I want to get it so that it's almost nothing left as far as the thickness of clay. It's the same thickness as the stem. But if you can see this, now I'm going to push that tool in and make a little flap that hangs down a touch. So when I put that on my stem, I can just push that flap down over the top of the stem. And that's a martini glass. Now you make a bit bigger, a bit smaller, depends on how big a martini you like. But getting these off is very tricky because it will literally fall over if you're not careful, because there's hardly anything under there. A little bit. One more. There you go, centered. It's kind of hard to get your hand around a small piece of clay. Find the center, put a hole, but don't go down very far. Trying to leave a fairly thick lump of clay right in the center. All I do when I'm doing that, you see me do it 3 or 4 times, is I open it up this way, so I always recompress it from the other direction on the other side. That's to prevent S-cracks. Robin Hopper told me that years ago. Open up, get it really wet, push in again, but not totally all the way this time, just to grab some clay on your finger and pull that clay that's above your finger all the way up so you can make the piece taller. Let go slowly. They're getting thin. As I was saying, I actually throw very thin. Now I'm pushing it a long way, but I've grabbed some clay again so I can try getting this martini glass a little taller. There you go. This is a bit bigger than the last one. Just get the water off it. There you go. What a nice day it was here today. It was cold, as I said, at 0, but the sun was out. We haven't had a lot of sun. It's been really windy this year. Lots of gales in the evenings. So this time, I'm going to push the tool and make that. I can use either side of this tool. That's the tool. All right, it's an old one from England. So I could do it this way too. But very careful, push in so that that becomes the same width as the stem. Maybe it's a little bit bigger because you want it to hang over so you can push the clay down. But then I make a gap so the wire will go underneath it. And then I try and make, with the other end of that tool, and any tool would do this, you just try and push in a little bit above where you pushed the last one in a bit, and now it's going to make that little flap. So I can push, it's only tiny, but you can push that down over the stem. and then make sure your rim is smooth. There we go. And that's another one. Oh, got a little bit of clay hanging over there. Alright, so basically, take it off. And be careful not to knock it over because it's very, the stem is less than a quarter size, like a $quarter. Just a quarter. Slide it to your finger. So it literally fits on my fingertip. Good morning. This is Vaughan again for step 2 of the martini glasses. So these have been setting up overnight, and what I'm waiting for is I have to keep the stem a little soft, so it's still bendable but it's stiffened up. But the bowls, because they've been sitting the right way up, are still really soft at the bottom, but they're stiffer at the top, so I can handle them. And I simply make sure that this area on top is actually soft, because that dried out quite a bit overnight since they were the right way up. So I just added water to this, and basically I just have to place these on top, and then I'm going to put them on the wheel in about an hour from now. I'll video that when I do it, and you'll see how I make sure that they're centered. But literally all I have to do now is place these on top and fold down the little piece of the flat that I left. You don't have to be too precise at this moment in time, because basically the clay is soft and I'm going to be able to put them into center completely. Let me just make a little space here. This harp I got, oh, it's really old. I got it in England ages ago. I think it was from Wenger Pottery, or even Pottery Crafts, I think they called it back in those days. I don't know who supplies clay in England anymore, but anyway, you're simply placing that on because the bottom of the bowl is still really soft and the actual stem is stiffer, but the top of the stem was softened with a little bit of water and scratching. I threw an extra couple last night just so I'd have 4 to work with. So this tool, you can make this with a piece of rebar, except this one has grooves all the way down, so you can actually set it for, have a block of clay, you could cut slabs exactly the right thickness with it. So all right, so next one, place on top. I usually just wiggle around a little bit just to kind of make sure it's feeling like there's some contact. And see, the joint at the top and the bottom of the bowl should be the same size. But you're just really waiting for that to stiffen up a touch. I mean, if I did it all in one day, I could time it, but I did these late last night, so I let them stiffen up overnight. But you can do these in one day. Just move it around a little bit. Now this is, I said in the other video earlier, that it's actually B-mix clay, cone 5, and I can fire it to cone 6 easily, even a high cone 6. I haven't noticed any problems except for flatware plates. Like the rims of plates could actually lower a little bit. All right, so these now have to stiffen for 1 hour. See you in an hour. Step 3, martini glasses. So let's give you a little hand here, seeing better. Get you down onto the wheel itself. This is quick, and I'm going to go to step 4 during the same day today, I think, hopefully, anyway. You take a glass. They are still, at this point, you can bend the stem a little bit. So I put it, and this is a good reason for a Giffin grip as well. I don't know if you could do this with a a regular wheel, but we're just trying to see if it's centered. Somebody was saying my glasses seem to be very straight. Let's see if we can get this to not wobble. Are we on? Nope, turn the wheel on. Okay, see how there's a bit of a wobble? So you just have to see where it's high and then literally bend it over. I've waited till this is just still movable. That's down a bit. Yep, that's straight now. There's some movement because the thing underneath is not completely, but that's straight. So that's all I'm doing. I'm basically just bending the clay while it's still in that easy to bend condition. The bottom is very soft. So I place it in. You could put a level on this and probably do it just as easily without doing it on the wheel. And I have these little pieces of foam. If it doesn't want to grip properly, as I stick those in, because it's actually a bit smaller, narrow piece for the actual move the stem. Make sure you got to try and make sure that stem is straight in the wheel. Yeah, that's pretty good. That one's very close straight away. See, my finger's not moving up and down. I also, at this point, would put a little pressure on the inside of the bowl to help make that join area on the stem much more secure. Okay, that's about all I really need to do. I'm going to turn these upside down tomorrow because I think they're too soft in the actual bottom. I thought I might be able to do it today, but feeling these ones, they're actually very soft at the bottom. I need the bottom to dry out, so I'll turn these upside down later on today and let them dry overnight upside down. That's not bad either. And you can hold your finger like this and just push like that, and that will level it. All right, so that's not too hard. I don't need these foam things, but sometimes foam is very useful just to grip it. All right. Yes, I'm not sure if you didn't have a gripping grip how you would do this. I think you'd kind of have to just seal that bottom part back on the wheel to actually make sure it's gripping properly. So finger inside and then just pushing up. As it hits your finger, I'm just pushing up a little bit. And that's level it. The rim is dry. Yep, that's straight. All right, so what I'm going to do now, there you go. What I'm going to do now is turn these upside down overnight. Okay, back again. This is late in the evening on the same day, and the pieces are now ready to trim the bottoms. So let me show you how I do this. There you go, I think you can see what I'm doing. Giffing grip with the little pads holding the actual ball. It's now stiff enough, so what we call leather hard, although the very center down here is still a little soft, but it's stiff enough so I can actually grip it and without worrying about it flopping over. And then basically I just trim as you would normally trim. I will flute the stems of these as well. I can probably show you that actually right on here. So you can do anything you want. It's kind of like turning a wood spindle. You can pretty much do anything you want. Have it just simple, minimalist, or you could do something quite elaborate. I suppose you could carve the entire stem, but then this part here, you got to try and get that totally And it's softer here, remember, so it's still turnable. And I try to put a small divot, like a little hollow area in the center, without touching. It's very tempting to put your finger down. I just did it, because that's how I trim normally, is I put my finger down. But I try to take out a small center area, and then I can put my finger in there to support it when I'm actually trimming this area, to get that kind of smoothed around. Because it wants to wobble a little bit. That's very thin, obviously. And then you take out the foot that you want to keep. I've tried hollowing these out a lot, and I decided it's not worth it, because I like some weight in the bottom of these, because they're very top heavy, and you're going to put a drink in there. You don't want to waste vodka. So anyway, here you go. I took my finger down then, and it knocked it off a little bit. But you've got to do the... See, it's very soft there, so if that happens, get that out of there. I would then just go once again, make a little hollow area. Trying not to trim too hard here, because I don't want to push it off center. Stick my finger back in there, and then I can just get those trimmings off there a little bit. Then you could simply do that, and you'll straighten it again. And it's pretty much done now anyway. Basically, you're just trying to... I'll leave a little bit of weight in that so it isn't so top heavy. And then this whole area down there, let's see if you can get... I think you're going to have to... I don't want to move the camera, I guess it'll have to reset. You just do that. Which, once again, you just do whatever you want. I suppose you could do a spiral from as it's spinning with your trimming tool from the bottom to the top. That's another very quick way of doing it. Make sure your hand doesn't wobble too much. Now, I don't, as a, this is a retail thing, I don't sell wine glasses and martini glasses very often. I have sold like 8 to 1 person in one go, but most people just buy one. It's sort of a novelty thing, I guess, as far as pottery goes. There you go. Yeah, all right, let's get this off here and you can see it. Now, just as a bit, the pads have got, I put extra soft things here. This is just a door insulation that I glue on these pads because it's softer than the stuff they send with it. Because you can crack the rim of your piece if you're not careful when you're doing stuff like that. There you go. See what I did? There's the little divot in the center, the fluting, and you got a martini glass with no vodka in it. Darn. Anyway, all right. So a couple of quick things. I did a test. Somebody asked me if I could improve the Randy's Red by slow cooling. Well, I did a test with the slow cooling. It came out brown. And that's with the B-Mix clay. So I'm doing another test today where I'm doing the regular profile that I did with the other clay body where I got the red. And we'll see whether it comes out red under that same profile. It may be the clay. Clay bodies do affect the colors of glazes. All right. Okay, so stay tuned. All right. Have a nice evening and then a martini. All right. Take care. Bye.